Colin Powell was a respected military general, statesman, and one of America's foremost black figures. He served as National Security Advisor under President Ronald Reagan, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President George H.W. Bush, and finally Secretary of State under President George W. Bush, the first African American to ever serve in the latter two leadership posts.
I was sitting in my office and one of the senior members of the staff came in and closed the door and said, "Sir, I have to ask you something." And a lot of confusion in the building. So what's wrong? He said, "Well, what do we call you? Do we call you General or Mr. Secretary?" And I said, "By all means, it's Mr. Secretary. Now drop and give me 10.
The passing of Colin Powell is the end of an era. He personified the great excellence and achievement of African Americans in our nation's armed forces, in some ways perhaps even paving the way for the Obama presidency.
In 1996, Powell considered a bid to become the first black president, but his wife discouraged him out of fear of potential assassination attempts from extremists. When Democrat Barack Obama made the bid years later, the moderate Republican broke with his party to endorse Obama. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, the first black U.S. Defense Secretary, called Powell a tremendous mentor and friend.
He always made time for me, and I could always go to him with tough issues. He always had great counsel. We will certainly miss him. I feel as if I have a hole in my heart.
Wounded twice as a young soldier in Vietnam, the war shaped his views of when and how presidents should and should not use armed forces.
And I believe Secretary Powell's years as a soldier are what made him such an exceptional diplomat. He knew that war and military action should always be a last resort.
Powell received high praise for his overwhelming use of force in the Gulf War, which quickly pushed Iraqi forces out of Kuwait in 1991. But critics have denounced his controversial presentation to the UN Security Council in February 2003. Powell made the case for the invasion of Iraq during the George W. Bush administration, citing Iraqi weapons of mass destruction that were never found.
The facts in Iraq's behavior demonstrate that Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community.
That's probably the major blemish on his record, but it really wasn't only his blemish, it was the whole intelligence community. I think there are 13 different intelligence agencies, and 12 out of 13 said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, and he studied and then he came to agree. They were all wrong.
Even Powell later called the presentation a, quote, blot in his career. Today, Republicans and Democrats alike uphold him as a man of honor and a patriot to the end. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
By future generations. These were men and women who lived